Hello, everybody. 5 Round MMA is back with podcast number 4, and this podcast is brought to you by SportsSceneTV.net and True Athletes Training Systems. I'm Alex Ramirez, alongside Albert Cita. We got a big event today. We had a big weekend of cable fights this time. And Albert, what do you got for breaking news?
Breaking news, we have a Welterweight Division Showdown. UFC 158 is going to have GSP versus Diaz, Condit versus McDonald, Hendricks versus Ellenberger.
Yeah, it seems like Dana White and the UFC brass is kind of mending the hearts of welterweight fans, or Johnny Hendricks fans especially. I mean, this is like a welterweight division spotlight showdown. And you have a theory, right? You said about this?
Yeah, I didn't want to bring out the theory so early in the show, but it's a good one. And that's because we have Diaz. I don't know what day it is.
Yeah, so it's meant to say this is a projected fight card because it's maybe all depending if Nick Diaz actually shows up to the press conferences and does the promos and interviews and stuff like that, right? Because last time he and GSP were scheduled to fight, he basically decided not to show to anything, right? And Dana White canceled the fight. So this is kind of depending on if Diaz feels like doing interviews, right?
Yeah, and that's where my theory comes in because he literally has the top 6 welterweights in this card. So any of them, even Ellenberger, can step in for that main event, and it will still be a legit championship fight.
So if, like, worst case scenario for the UFC and Diaz does pull another no-show, who's stepping in there? Is it the rightful man, Johnny Hendricks, or do they throw a curveball and throw a McDonald in there, or even Ellenberger?
No, it's gonna be Hendricks. He'll be the first choice, and then the other ones are just in case. I mean, I'm pretty sure people would like to see a Condit rematch. Even that will be looking good.
Yeah, that's very strange. I mean, this is all depending on the fragile mind of Nick Diaz, huh?
Well, that's all we have in news. Stay tuned. We have a special guest today. You guys are not going to want to miss this interview. So stay tuned.
And coming up, we got reactions to the full weekend of cable fights, so stick around. All right, everybody. If you like what you hear out there and want to hear more of it, make sure to follow us on Twitter at 5RoundMMA, and always check out the website, 5RoundMMA.com. 5RoundMMA is brought to you by SportsSceneTV.net. Get all your prep school sports information at SportsSceneTV.net. All right, 5RoundMMA is back, everybody. This weekend was a pretty interesting weekend for free fight lovers out there. We had, on Friday night, we had Bellator 84, UFC on FX. Was it the Smashes, I believe it was called, right?
Yeah, it was UK versus Australia.
Yeah, and then Saturday was UFC Ultimate Fighter finale, 16, I believe? Team Nelson versus Team Carwin.
Yep, but Matt Mitrione stepped in because Shane Carwin got hurt.
Yeah, so with the plethora of free fights, Albert, what sticks in your mind?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The main events didn't stick in my mind, nor do I care what happened in the main event. Let me tell you something I do care about. First of all, I don't know why Chad Mendes was in the prelims.
Yeah, for Friday night.
That was ridiculous. Anyways, if people don't know out there who Chad Money Mendes is, he's 13-1. His only loss is to Jose Aldo. And I actually want to ask you, Alex. He is in the 145 division, and he keeps fighting these nobodies. I mean, but is it because there is nobody at 145?
I think ever since his Jose Aldo fight, he's been kind of shafted a little bit, hasn't he? Like, he's kind of under the radar. This guy who's like the legit number 1 contender, and like even that fight with Jose Aldo was kind of questionable because I don't know if everyone remembers, Jose Aldo was going down on the ground, but yet he was called for holding the fence, and that fight was allowed to stay on the feet. If that fight went on the ground, completely different fight. But ever since then, he's been kind of like under the radar, just kind of thrown in there. And this is for a guy who is probably a top 3 featherweight in the world. And I think he is kind of just
going under the radar for some weird reason.
Yeah, you think he's what? I think with 2-0, 3-0 since his.
Yeah, he's 2-0 and both
knockouts, right?
Yeah.
So he should be right up there with contention now, but instead he gets stepped over by Frankie Edgar, who's just dropping down, coming off of 2 losses in a row. But.
I mean, at the same time, I think you can blame Jose Aldo for this because he scared off everybody at 145.
Yeah, since everybody's going up.
Chad Mendes was left with a bunch of scraps.
Yeah, it's like guys he's like fighting guys they're bringing in to prove that they can hang in the featherweight division, which is a shame because Chad Mendes is not a gatekeeper. He's a legit contender. So it seems like he's kind of a gatekeeper now, which is unfortunate.
But yeah, Chad Money Mendes, that stood out. That's my boy, in case you guys were wondering. Another my boy. And this honestly should have been the main event because I could have cared less about Ross Pearson and George Shapropoulos. Yeah. Anyways, Hector Lambert, 32-3. 32-3. Demolished Paul Harris.
Paul
Harris. Paul Harris is no joke either. He's 14-4. He's a great jiu-jitsu fighter. Hector demolished him.
Yeah,
demolished him.
He had a lot of hype. Well, not much hype coming in from Bellator to the UFC. I mean, he before his loss to Tim Boetsch, he was 5 years undefeated, and then he was criticized by his poor performance, kind of too much hype, overpaid, and he later came out and said that, well, I don't want to make any excuses for myself, but I had, I think, a broken rib and a cracked sternum. So Hector Lombard fought that fight and lost a split decision, mind you, with basically a cracked sternum. And
which I thought that he won that fight too.
Yeah. And so I think he really made a point to come out. He said, I want to come out and knock out and prove to everybody that I'm not just all hype, that I'm a true contender in the middleweight division.
That night he showed, this is why I'm the hype. This is the whole reason everybody even talked about Hector.
He was like ruthless, man. He was just going at him, like not even holding back or anything like that. Like you smell the knockout was coming, and it just came, and it came very nasty.
Yeah, that's all he wanted, and he got it.
And my favorite part is after the fight, guess who he calls out? Michael the Count Bisping, who was the first one to talk so much crap about Lombard. Oh, this guy's a small middleweight. What's he doing? I was in the elevator with him. He looked like a midget.
Dude, Michael Bisping is talking like if he's already the champion. Yeah. Talking down to everyone saying he's already the unofficial Strikeforce champion. Oh, please. I can't. Actually, I think Vitor Belfort's going to knock him out.
Yeah.
But even if he wins, I beg that he gets Hector Lombard.
Because, you know, yeah, I think, as always, Michael Bisping always bites off more than he can chew. And at this time, I think he just pissed off the wrong guy out there who scored a pretty devastating knockout, knockout.
A much-needed win.
I think what I like about Big Country is that he gets under the skin of Dana White, and anybody who gets under the skin of Dana White is a fan of mine. I'm a fan of, and like you could tell, like Dana White was hoping like Shane Carwin, who was the original opponent, would come in and like, just beat him out, but Big Country proved everybody wrong, man. Did a vicious knockout, and was rubbing his belly afterwards and talking crap and all this stuff, man. Real fun guy to watch.
Yeah, but again, I don't care. He fought Matt Mitrione, who used to be a football player, who got beat by Czech Congo, who I can't even remember the last person Czech Congo beat before Matt Mitrione.
You know who he beat? He beat Pat Barry.
Oh, yeah, I don't care.
Pat Barry fought on Saturday too. Come on now. Yeah. He scored a pretty big knockout.
I saw that little Pat Barry cry after his win. No one cares. The only thing I have to talk about that day is two things. One, Dustin Poirier. He looked impressive as always. He's at 145. He still needs a couple more fights before he can be up there in the top 3. I really hope they don't give him Chad Mendes because he's not ready for it either.
Yeah.
And the second one is my boy, even though he lost, my boy Mike Ritchie.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, anyone that can wear a suit that good deserves credit in my book.
So the runner-up to the Ultimate Fighter, Mike Ritchie.
Yeah, and plus it was pretty much all Colt did was keep him on the ground for 3 rounds, so you can't really tell much of a fighter when that happens.
All right, guys. Well, coming up, we got a segment with our special guest, Agree or Disagree, so stick around.
It's going to be good.
All right, everybody. If you like what you hear out there and want to hear more of it, make sure to follow us on Twitter at FiveRoundMMA, and always check out the website, FiveRoundMMA.com. 5RoundMMA is brought to you by True Athletes Training Systems. Unlock your inner athlete at TrueAthletes.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do a little segment we like to call Agree or Disagree. But this time we have a couple of special guests with us. Albert?
Yeah, you might know him from such fantasy leagues as the Fontana Fantasy Football League. We got here big boy, Jason. I dare you to listen, Hendricks. Jason?
That's right. I'm here, baby. I'm representing the 209, just like the Diaz bros. I'm coming to give you guys knowledge about True MMA. I've been listening to your podcast 2 weeks now. It's been pretty entertaining, but you guys are way off on pretty much all your opinions, like I knew you would.
Okay.
All right. With that said, let's get to topic number 1.
Agree or disagree?
Nick Diaz is a true #1 contender to the welterweight title. Jason?
209 represent, baby. You know Nick Diaz is the #1 contender. He beat Carlos Condit. We all know he beat him. Nick Diaz, my boy, as Albert would say, is coming for GSP, and he's the one who's going to take that belt, and he's going to make him change to some baggy shorts instead of those tight friggin' bicycle pants. It's going to be the most smack talk, most entertaining fight of all time. I see it going maybe to the 3rd round, and Nick Diaz is going to win via TKO.
Wow. Albert, rebuttal?
I couldn't disagree more. Let's get some facts straight here, Jason, because I like to go off of facts. The last time Nick Diaz won was over a year ago. It was October 29, 2011. Okay? 2011. So that's a big disagree. Alex?
I disagree as well. I mean, not only his last win, but this guy coming off of, what, a 9-month sentence, a suspension sentence for smoking weed. And this guy, even the last time they fought, he couldn't even show up to a press conference. So that already showed you he's already scared to death of GSP. Guy can't even he can't even sit in the same room with them, let alone the same octagon. Come on, Jason.
He wants to keep it interesting. He has that mystery factor going on.
By no showing a press conference?
Dude.
You got to pay to see Nick Diaz, and he's been busy winning triathlons, mind you. So he has been winning things.
Swimming and running a bike? Come on, where's you running from?
Breaking news, triathlons don't punch back. Look, I'm going to show
Breaking
you
news, how'd that work out for Mike Ricci?
Oh, no, you didn't. We'll go to Mike Ritchie later. Don't you talk about my boy Mike Ritchie. Just in case you guys are listening, that's another my boy, Mike Ritchie. I don't care if he lost.
Hey, man, TriStar Modeling Agency needs to take a nap. It's all about
Wow. First of all, they need to open up a modeling agency in TriStar because they be looking it up over there.
If you're into the fight game to watch pretty boys fight and slap each other and wrestle bone each other, then TriStar your gym.
All right.
If you're into thug life, true fighting.
As opposed to jumping guys in the octagon or what? Like the Diaz brothers do? Like the Jake Shields does?
That's just a misunderstanding.
So we got 2 disagrees and agree. Guillermo, next one?
BJ Penn should not take another fight and retire for good. Alex?
I completely agree with that statement. His last 2 fights, he was beaten very badly and not even really a fight at all. I mean, I love BJ Penn, but time to hang him up, man.
I 100% agree with that statement. BJ Penn was a punching bag to Rory McDonald, my boy, Rory McDonald. It was literally a reenactment of American Psycho, and BJ Penn practically died in there. What do you think, Jason?
Jason, agree or disagree?
Couldn't disagree more. What a surprise. My boy, for life, BJ Penn, he showed a lot of heart out there against Rory McDonald, who, mind you, did not want to take a drug test. That's a little interesting.
Actually, I think they both enlisted in that drug test, and they got tested throughout their fight camp.
That's a rumor. No, dude, that guy looked like he was juicing in the ring. In fact,
he was juicing in the ring?
I put a needle in his butt cheek.
It's an octagon
He
first.
was juicing in the octagon, like
anyway,
in between rounds?
BJ Penn showed a lot of heart. That guy still belongs in the ring. He's a scrapper. That's what BJ Penn is. What fighting is all about.
But what was he scrapping?
For once, I disagree with Dana because that fool needs to mind his own business and let people fight if they want to fight.
That's true, actually.
Okay, so you rather see a death in the octagon, is what you're telling me? Because BJ Penn didn't even put up a fight.
If BJ drops down to 155, he can hang with those guys still.
Also,
Frankie Edgar danced around for 45 minutes against BJ. Didn't hurt him at all. BJ Penn can still hang at 155.
But you don't think, like, BJ fighting at 170 is him being lazy in his training? Like, he's too lazy to cut down to 155?
He needs to cut to 155. He can't hang at 170, I'll admit that.
That's true,
but
yeah.
he can hang at 155. He'll still be a contender at 155.
Well, we'll see. Let's get on to the next topic.
I think, yeah. No, next one, Guillermo.
Diego Sanchez return to lightweight will eventually end up with him getting a title shot. Albert?
Agree.
Why are you laughing for, Jason?
Wow.
Let me give you some facts here, Jason, because, again, I deal with facts, not rumors, not opinions. These are facts. And the fact is, Diego Sanchez is 2-1 in lightweight division, and that one loss being a championship fight, okay?
Against who?
BJ Penn.
Well, technically it was a stop. It was a stop.
It was
a doctor stoppage.
We didn't know what could have happened in that third round.
His face looked like Rocky Balboa. It was not an early stoppage.
Anyways, Diego Sanchez is 30 years old now. He needs to do this is going to be his last run, and I really think he's going to go all the way to the belt. I don't know if he's going to win it, but I agree.
I also agree with it. I think his last run at lightweight was very successful. He ran into BJ Penn, which is kind of a doctor stoppage. I think he could really steamroll through the division and be right up there with Smooth Henderson, man. Jason, what do you think?
I disagree, of course. The guy's a loser. Who has he beat, realistically, his entire career? Who has he beat? BJ Penn, the most legitimate person he's ever fought, destroyed him. He didn't even belong in the same octagon as that guy.
Doctor stoppage again, once more.
He needs to drop back down to King of the Cage and fight some of these guys that come off the street. Diego Sanchez.
Just to let you know, too, Jason, you know he was the King of the Cage champion, right?
He actually came from King of the Cage.
He actually won 10 fights in a row in King of the Cage.
I could be King of the Cage champion. You guys could be King of the Cage champion. That doesn't take anything.
Lucky for you,
dream
Jason.
Sanchez.
Lucky for you, Jason. I know where we can sign you up and put you in the King of the Cage if you like.
Well, I haven't been training, so that wouldn't really be fair on such short notice. But who is Diego beat? Honestly, who's he beat at 155?
Who's he beat?
Yeah, I don't know those guys.
No, Clay Guida.
He beat your boy Clay Guida. That's Jason's
Clay
boy, by the
Guida?
way.
He's still
Joe
fighting?
Daddy
boy.
Stevens.
Joe Daddy Stevenson.
Oh my! You're
Hey, wait.
Joe Daddy Stevenson.
Dude, Joe
is like
Daddy Stevenson
30
was your
and
boy for
45
how many
career.
years?
Joe Daddy Stevenson is horrible. Who else did you say? Clay Guida?
Yeah, he beat Clay Guida. That was a fight of the year.
Those are your two biggest wins. You don't deserve a title shot for beating Clay Guida and Joe. Where are you now, Stevenson?
You also don't deserve a title shot by being suspended for 9 months
He's not
for
getting
smoking
that.
weed, by the way.
Nope. He's going to be just like Martin Kampman, and he's going to get beat by the top near competition.
So you see, so basically, Diego Sanchez to you is what a gatekeeper at that.
Correct. If that.
If that, come on.
Well,
dream,
because this is our first time having Jason here, we're actually going to have a bonus statement to agree or disagree. Guillermo?
Chuck Liddell is the greatest fighter to ever step foot inside the octagon.
Wow.
Jason?
Chuck Liddell is what? Say that again. I'm sorry.
Chuck Liddell is the greatest fighter to ever step foot inside the octagon. Jason?
I agree. Let me tell you why. Chuck Liddell, before Chuck Liddell had a main eventing card, nobody knew MMA outside of the hardcore fans like us guys. Once Chuck Liddell started beating people, everybody starts becoming an MMA fan. Oh, we love MMA. We've been watching MMA forever. Chuck Liddell put MMA back on the map. Chuck Liddell was the most feared fighter when he was in there in light heavyweight, which is the most competitive division. So, yes, Chuck Liddell is the greatest fighter in the history of UFC.
I couldn't disagree with that statement even more. First of all,
Shocking.
the reason UFC got on the map is two reasons. Ken Shamrock and the Forrest Griffin Stephen Bonner fight. Because nobody was tuning in before those two. And let me again, I live in the world of facts, Jason, okay? Chuck Liddell, his last 3 years in the UFC went 1-6. Let me repeat that. 1-6. His last 3 fights were all lost in KO. Okay, those are facts. Chuck Liddell is nowhere in the top, the greatest of all time.
Do you guys like money? Because Dana White definitely likes money. And if you're talking about fighting, and the reason fighting's around is because of Chuck Liddell, bottom line.
I think you meant to say because of Ken
is a
Shamrock
joke. Ken
slash
Shamrock,
Stephen Bonner
Ken Shamrock
versus...
was a glorified WWE wrestler.
Before that, he was an MMA fighter. Come on now.
Nah, he wasn't an MMA fighter. He was better at WWE where it was fake and it was staged. Because once he fought real competition, like my boy, Tito Ortiz, he got punked left and right. And
where's Tito Ortiz at right now, Alex? I always forget.
Where's Ken Shamrock at right now?
Venice Beach with the Janet Jameson, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where's Ken Shamrock right now?
He's fighting still. Ken Shamrock is like, what, is he fighting in Vegas still or some like Oklahoma or San Jose?
Yeah.
Every time I read, he's like fighting somebody, some random truck driver. But still.
Meanwhile, Tito and Chuck are making millions supporting the UFC, continuing to put them on the map. Do they have a Ken Shamrock Ultimate DVD? Nope.
Actually, they do.
DVD,
they do have a best
it's
of Ken
bootleg.
Shamrock. Well, anyways, thanks for calling in, Jason, and hopefully we'll have you more often here at 5 Round MMA.
Yeah, thanks, Jason.
Yeah, see you guys later.
All right.
Flyers.
All right, everyone, that was agree or disagree with our special guest, Jason Hendricks. All right, that about wraps it up for us today. Make sure to check back next week. We'll have a UFC 155 preview show, Dos Santos versus Velasquez 2. We have a lot of opinions on that one.
Yeah, and I also like to thank our sound engineer. They call him Ollie, the trolley. I like to thank our executive producer, Anthony Sariana. Without him, this wouldn't be possible. Our producer, Guillermo Cita. And I'd like to thank everyone that was listening as well.
That's it. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at 5RoundMMA. And always check out the website, 5RoundMMA.com. Thank you, everybody.
I'm a fool.